Chapter 61, Amazing Cultivation World. The sect master wishes to run. Hanj couldn't help but open his eyes when he heard Guan Yugang's words. He saw Guan Yugang looking at him from several kilometers away. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, and he had a confident expression. Hanj had opened a barrier during his tribulation transcendence, so the pressure of the heavenly tribulation was not that terrifying. This caused Guan Yugang to feel that Hanj's breakthrough was nothing much. Sigh, you didn't come earlier. But now, Hanj shook his head and laughed. He continued to consolidate his cultivation. 4 days later, Hanj's cultivation had completely stabilized. The 6 paths spirit energy in his body far exceeded what he had before his breakthrough. He stood up and stepped into the air, heading towards Guan Yugang. Guan Yugang couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't be bothered to show respect. He took out a sword and charged at Hanj while flying. He quickly cast a spell with both hands. He circulated his spirit energy, causing his robes to flutter. As long as I defeat him, I can become the sect master of the Jade Pure sect. At that time, junior sister Zai Xuan will definitely marry me. Guan Yugang's eyes burned. Thinking of the beautiful future, his entire being was ignited. He was prepared to use the unparalleled mystical power that he had recently comprehended to instantly defeat the other party. Swish. There was a piercing sound. Sword chi. Guan Yugang's pupils widened. He subconsciously wanted to block. However, the sword chi was too fast. It was so fast that even he, a soul formation cultivator, could not react in time. The sword chi of the unparalleled finger divine sword directly penetrated Guan Yugang's abdomen, scattering the spirit energy within his body. Guan Yugang spat out a mouthful of blood as he flew back like a kite with its string cut, landing on the hill. After landing, he clutched his stomach and spat out another mouthful of blood. His aura instantly weakened. Pathetic. Impossible. Guan Yugang felt as if he was struck by lightning. He stared at Hanj, who was walking in the air. Wearing the golden cicada's mystic divine robe, Hanj had a stunning temperament. He wore a Frost Lord's glazed crown on his head, a little universe belt around his waist, and a pair of 9 stars spirit trampling boots on his feet. When he was meditating, Guan Yugang didn't feel much. But looking at Hanj now, he felt that this was a true immortal, especially that perfect face. If there were immortals in the world, they would look like this. Wait, what am I thinking? Guan Yugang suddenly awoke, followed by a sense of defeat. He couldn't even take a single strike from his opponent. Ridiculous. Previously, he had smiled and wanted to defeat his opponent with 1 strike, but in the end, he was defeated with 1 strike. At that moment, Guan Yugang wished there was a hole in the ground for him to hide in. Hanj landed in front of him. Guan Yugang lowered his head in shame, not daring to look at him. Hanj said softly, "Don't be disheartened. You're strong enough, but you chose the wrong opponent. In the entire Jade Pure sect, you're the only one worthy of fighting me." With that, he disappeared. Guan Yugang was stunned. He didn't feel that the other party was bragging. Instead, he felt slightly comforted. Deity slaying elder. Just how strong are you? Hanj quickly left the 10,000 demon realm and didn't stay in the inner sect city. He returned to the cultivation mountain. He suddenly had an idea. With a flash, he arrived at the foot of the mountain. He cast a spell with his right hand, causing the soil to rise and quickly form a stone tablet. Hanj used his finger as a pen and wrote 4 words on the stone tablet. Cultivate diligently. Become immortal. This was the name of this mountain from now on. Cultivate diligently, become immortal mountain. Hanj smiled in satisfaction and returned to the mountain. The black hell chicken and the chaotic heavenly dog were still cultivating. Xing Hong Xuan was nowhere to be found. Hanj chatted with the black hell chicken and chaotic heavenly dog for an hour before returning to his cave abode. Sitting on the bed, he took out the primordial judgment sword. The sword was crimson in color and there were black patterns on it, making it look even more extraordinary. Holding this sword, Hanj felt inexplicably close to it. He poured his spirit energy into the sword. Boom! The entire mountain began to shake violently, scaring Hanj so much that he hurriedly cut off the 6 paths spirit energy. So strong. Hanj was pleasantly surprised. As it was a birth Dharma treasure, he didn't need to bind it with blood. Then, Hanju entered the simulation trial and fought with Taoist 9 cauldrons. Half a minute later, Hanju opened his eyes and let out a long breath. He muttered, "I can finally defeat you. You're really shameless. You actually know so many movement techniques." In the battle, he had severely injured Taoist 9 cauldrons with a single strike. After that, Taoist 9 cauldrons kept dodging and prolonged the battle. The 8th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm was nothing much. Hanju's confidence increased greatly. He no longer feared the demon-taming sect and Xio. From his interpersonal relationships, he could see that Xio was still at the 2nd level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. How could Xio kill him? How? At the thought of him, Hanju immediately took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing Xio. In the future, he would curse this guy whenever he had free time. Although Hanju wasn't afraid of him, he didn't want this troublesome person to delay his cultivation. 10 days later, Hanju put down the Book of Misfortune in satisfaction and began to cultivate the 6th level of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Technique. A year later, Hanju had mastered the 6th level of the 6 Paths of Reincarnation Technique and could cultivate in the Void Amalgamation Realm. At the same time, he comprehended a new mystical power, 6 Paths Ultimate Seal. If this seal landed on the enemy, it could directly kill the enemy's essence soul. Before the body was destroyed, the essence soul would be eliminated. This was a technique that could be used as a finishing move. Hanju stretched and sighed. "I've gotten stronger again." In no hurry to cultivate, he opened his interpersonal relationships and checked his emails. He wondered if anything had happened to his friends recently. "Your disciple Suchi was attacked by a ghost cultivator. X12. Your disciple Suchi has caused the deaths of tens of thousands of lives. His negative karma has increased." Your good friend Li Qingtsai was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. X58. Your good friend Li Qingtsai was attacked by a righteous cultivator. X44. Your good friend Li Qingtsai is seriously injured. His life is hanging by a thread. Your beloved Xuan King Jun has left the world. Your good friend Mo Fuchu massacred an entire region. His negative karma is overflowing. Your good friend Xing Hongxuan accidentally entered an ancient great cultivator's mystic realm. Her fate is unknown. So many exciting things in just a short year. Hanju blinked. Damn it. Who attacked my Jade Pure Sect's sect master? Are the righteous and demonic factions rebelling? Was Mo Fuchu on a path of no return? And Xing Hongxuan? She was clearly immortal. How could she always obtain treasures and encounter opportunities? Could it be that she was infected by my Providence as an Immortal Emperor's descendant? Hanju made up the scenes in his mind. After a while, he continued to cultivate. Although the cultivation world was interesting, he did not want to be involved. The Jade Pure sect had the backing of Taoist 9 cauldrons. Who could guarantee that the other sects did not? The Void Amalgamation Realm alone was not enough. The reincarnated Mahayana cultivator, Zifan, was still suffering. Now, Hanju would cultivate with all his might and strive to reach the body integration realm within 100 years. 2 years later, Li Qingtsai came to visit. Hanju let him enter the cave abode. This fellow's expression returned to the sickly and weak state he had been in for decades. It seemed that his injuries were not light. Hanju sighed and said, "Sect Master, you really can't live in peace. Can't you cultivate properly for a few hundred years?" Embarrassed, Li Qingtsai said helplessly, "I'm the Sect Master. There are many things I can't control." In the past few years, a core disciple of our Jade Pure sect fell into the demonic path and caused a lot of hatred. I had no choice but to deal with this karma. Who knew that I would fall deeper and deeper? Now, there's trouble. The righteous and demonic cultivators of the great Yan cultivation world are working together to attack my Jade Pure sect. There are only 2 soul formation cultivators in the Jade Pure sect. For some reason, Elder Guan is severely injured and is still recuperating in seclusion. Sigh. Elder Han, we might really have to escape this time. Chapter 62. 19 sects attack the Jade Pure sect. The righteous and demonic factions were ganging up on the Jade Pure sect. Hanju had a strange expression. He couldn't help but ask, "How do you deal with karma? Kill all those who are not convinced?" Li Qingtsai immediately became angry and scolded. "Those dogs. I personally went to apologize, but they directly attacked me. Most of the time, I didn't even have the chance to speak. You seem to know the core disciple who fell into the demonic path. His name is Mofachu. He didn't fall into the demonic path on his own accord. I suspect that someone is defaming him." Hanj raised his eyebrows and said, "Tell me more about it." Li Qingzai started to describe his ordeal. He first spoke of Mofachu's origins. Mofachu came from a cultivation family. Due to evidence of collusion with the fiendish cultivators, they were wiped out by the righteous sects. Only Mofachu and Mozu survived. Old Immortal Taoist Thunder had personally accepted Mofachu as his disciple and given him a new name. Mofachu was a name that old Immortal Taoist Thunder had personally given him, hoping that he would forget his hatred and turn over a new leaf. Mofachu had gone out to train and had met his former enemies. He had slain many of the sect's disciples and then attacked the other disciples of the righteous sects who had committed the crime. Li Qingzai felt that there was something fishy about this matter. After all, he had seen Mofachu before. He was humble, and even if he could not hold back from killing the enemy, he should have returned after the first time. He shouldn't have been seeking revenge and gone mad. Now, more than 5 sects were chasing after Mofachu. A few years ago, Mofachu had no choice but to use his family's mystical power. In the end, it was a demonic path mystical power, causing him to become a demon. More and more people were killed by this mystical power. Mofachu became a demonic cultivator and could not turn back anymore. This matter is too fishy. These sects didn't even ask me and directly pursued Mofachu for revenge. Every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor. I can accept that. But when I went to apologize, I was beaten up. The matters of the younger generation can involve the sect masters. It's obvious that they're using this opportunity to start a war. The more Li Qingzai spoke, the more agitated he became. He felt like he was about to cry. In the end, he still chose to give up. He sighed. "Now that both the righteous and demonic paths are attacking us, we can't stop them. We should just run as you think." Taoist 9 cauldrons left, while Guan Yugang was severely injured. How could Hanju alone stop the righteous and demonic paths? Some powerful sects still had soul formation realm existences. For example, the Vermilion Bird Sword sect had 2. If all the sects joined forces, Hanju alone would definitely not be able to stop them. Hanju asked cautiously, "Do they have void amalgamation realm existences? Body integration realm existences?" Li Qingzai said with widened eyes. "How is that possible?" Previously, Huang Zunshan's cultivation level was already at the 9th level of the soul formation realm. If they had a cultivator at the void amalgamation realm, how could they continue to be bullied? Could they be like our Jade Pure sect, where our ancestors went out to cultivate and seek fortuitous encounters? Definitely, but I've never heard of anyone at the void amalgamation realm. Back then, when the ancestor went to look for them one by one, they all acted like grandchildren. Li Qingzai couldn't help but sigh. If only Taoist 9 cauldrons was still here. It was a rare opportunity for the Jade Pure sect to grow. There was no need to fight. After a few hundred years, it would become the strongest sect in Great Yan. However, at this juncture, something happened. Li Qingzai felt very helpless. Ever since he became the sect master, he had sacrificed so much and suffered so much. In the end, it was all for nothing. Hanj had a strange expression. Li Qingzai understood his thoughts. He sighed and slowly stood up. "Prepare yourself well. In 3 days at most, the Jade Pure sect will prepare to flee to the sea and seek refuge with the ancestor." Hanj hurriedly said, "What are you saying? If I'm not running, why are you running?" Stunned, Li Qingzai asked carefully, "What do you mean?" Hanj said calmly, "Let them come. They will understand one thing. The most terrifying person in the Jade Pure sect is not the ancestor. All along, Hanj's imaginary enemy had always been the demon-taming sect. What did he think of the Great Yan cultivation world now? Come at me. How dare you disturb my cultivation? I'll make sure you never return." Li Qingzai was overjoyed. He understood Hanj's character. Such a cowardly Hanj dared to say such words. He was absolutely confident. "What realm are you at now?" Li Qingzai suppressed his surprise and asked. Hanj replied, at least not inferior to the ancestor. Yeah, not inferior. It would take him half a minute to kill Taoist 9 cauldrons. This old man's movement techniques were too absurd. After a long while, when Li Qingzai walked out of the connate cave abode, he was still stunned. He felt as if he was dreaming. After Li Qingzai left, Hanj cautiously tested the strongest person in the Jade Pure sect other than him. It was still Guan Yugang. No enemy lurked. Hanj felt a little pity. Where was Li Qianlong? Was he cursed to death? Hanj was still looking forward to teaching Li Qianlong a lesson. In the end, he disappeared into thin air. What a pity. Hanj shook his head and took out the Book of Misfortune. He cursed Xiao for a few days to vent his anger before continuing to cultivate. A year quickly passed. The great Yan cultivation world was in chaos. Mo Fuchu had killed his way to fame. The righteous and demonic sects had formed an alliance and were preparing to attack the Jade Pure sect. There were 19 sects involved. This matter had already spread to every corner of the cultivation world. All cultivators discussed this matter. 19 sects were attacking the Jade Pure sect. However, the Jade Pure sect did not panic, which made the 19 sects panic instead. The 19 sects did not dare to act rashly, afraid that Taoist 9 cauldrons would return. On this day, Hanj suddenly opened his eyes from cultivation. Sensing a familiar aura, he immediately sent his divine sense out. Huang Jihao of the Vermilion Bird Sword sect. At this moment, Huang Jihao stood by a small river and gazed at the 18 peaks of the Jade Pure sect. His expression was indifferent. He looked calm, but he was panicking inside. Why are you here again? Hanj's voice entered his ears. Huang Jihao trembled in fear and hurriedly said, Fellow Taoist, don't do anything. I'm only here to visit you. I have no ill intentions towards the Jade Pure sect. Visit me? Hanj was baffled. He hesitated. Should he attack? Without receiving a reply, Huang Jihao grew even more panicked. He continued, recently, someone has been leading the righteous demonic alliance to deal with the Jade Pure sect. Our sect master sent me to inquire if the Jade Pure sect needs help. Hanj raised his eyebrows. Is the Vermilion Bird Sword sect trying to stab the alliance in the back? Hanj thought of a plan and said with a voice transmission, the Jade Pure sect doesn't need any help. I will wait for all of you here. No matter how many of you come, you will all die. These words caused Huang Jihao's heart to beat wildly. What an arrogant tone. If it had been anyone else, Huang Jihao would have scoffed. However, he believed Hanj. However, this matter is fishy. There might be someone behind this. If your Vermilion Bird Sword sect can find the mastermind, then I don't mind having the sect master maintain an alliance with you. Hanj's words surprised Huang Jihao. Huang Jihao has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 4 stars. Hanj was speechless when he saw this line. This fellow. Chapter 63, The Mysterious Power of Curses. Huang Jihao left. However, Hanj couldn't look at him anymore. The favorability increased inexplicably. Hanj even suspected that this fellow had improper thoughts about him. Then, Hanj continued cultivating. It was still unknown if the Vermilion Bird Sword sect could find the mastermind. Hanj didn't care if they could. Even if the 19 sects attacked tomorrow, he would not be afraid. There was only one thing in his eyes. I should break through to the second level of the Void Amalgamation Realm as soon as possible. In a cave with a flickering flame, Xing Hongxuan sat in front of a fire. Roar! A deafening roar came from outside the cave. It was terrifying. Xing Hongxuan slowly opened her eyes. She looked at the words carved on the mountain wall and frowned slightly. Why do I feel like something is missing? Xing Hongxuan thought bitterly. This was a mystic realm belonging to an ancient cultivator. Xing Hongxuan had discovered by chance that there was a cultivation technique recorded here. It was unfathomable. She mustered up the courage to cultivate it. Her cultivation level had improved significantly in the past year, but she was still far from completely mastering this cultivation technique. Xing Hongxuan couldn't help but think of Hanj. If he were here, he might be able to answer her questions. With these thoughts in mind, Xing Hongxuan took out the heavenly puppet. Putting it next to her, she leaned her head against it and began to rest. Ever since she got the heavenly puppet, whenever she missed Hanj, she would take it out. She often told the puppet what was on her mind. Because Hanj's sole thought was hidden in the puppet, he was not worried that anything would happen to her. After a long while, Xing Hongxuan sat up straight and prepared to continue cultivating. At this moment, footsteps came from outside the cave. Xing Hongxuan immediately took out her equipment. A grey-robed old man with long hair and a youthful face walked in. Upon seeing the nervous Xing Hongxuan, he smiled and said, "Don't worry, Junior. I'm also here to study the cultivation technique." Here to comprehend the cultivation technique? Xing Hongxuan frowned in confusion. Could it be that this person had already discovered this mountain wall before she came here? Ignoring Xing Hongxuan, the grey-robed elder walked to the mountain wall and sat down. He stared at the words on the mountain wall and thought hard. Neither of them noticed the light in the eyes of the heavenly puppet. Inside the connate cave abode, Hanj hesitated. Should he let the heavenly puppet attack? Ever since Xing Hongxuan had fallen into the ancient mystic realm, he had kept an eye on her, fearing that something would happen to her. However, the grey-robed elder did not seem to have any ill intentions. Forget it. He decided to wait and see. It would be awkward if he couldn't defeat him. He continued to cultivate. In the blink of an eye, another 2 years passed. Xing Hongxuan and the grey-robed elder were still studying the cultivation technique on the mountain wall. They did not disturb each other. Hanj opened his eyes and checked his emails. Your disciple Suchi was attacked by the Liu family cultivators, X43. Your disciple Suchi was forced to marry into the Liu family. Your good friend Zafan was attacked by a fiendish cultivator, X8. Your good friend Chang Wei has learned a mystical power. Your good friend Huang Jihao was attacked by the Y family cultivators, X288. Your good friend Huang Jihao was severely injured and his life is hanging by a thread. He managed to escape. Your disciple Suchi spread bad luck. The Liu family encountered a plague that is hard to come by in 1,000 years. The entire family perished. Your good friend Fairy Zixuan had an epiphany during cultivation. Her cultivation has improved and her soul strength has increased greatly. Suchi is too terrifying. Wherever he went, life perished. Hanj was secretly shocked. It seemed like the Providence of the Immortal Emperor's descendant was really strong. He could actually withstand such bad luck. Poor Liu family. Also, what was going on with Huang Jihao? Could the Y family be the mastermind behind Mo Fuchu? The Y family was amazing. They had actually managed to severely wound Huang Jihao. Since when was there such strength in the cultivation world of Great Yan? Hanj immediately sent a voice transmission to Li Qingcai, who was recuperating on the main peak, asking about the Y family. He immediately rushed to his cave abode. Elder Han, why are you asking about their Y family? Li Qingcai asked nervously. Hanj raised his eyebrows. Are they very strong? Li Qingcai replied, the Y family is not strong. They only have one nascent soul ancestor. However, they have countless beauties who can topple cities and countries. The Y family has all sorts of marriages and even business outside of the Great Yan. They have the most connections in the Great Yan cultivation world. Hanju asked, is it possible that the Y family is the mastermind? Li Qingcai was stunned when he heard that. He hesitated and said, I don't think so. The Y family has no feud with the Mo family and is on good terms with the Jade Pure sect. He didn't have the confidence to continue. He felt that anyone could be the mastermind at this point. It's fine, sect master, rest well. If the enemy comes, I'll be here. Hanj nodded. Li Qingcai nodded and left. Before leaving, he looked worried. Could it really be the Y family? Hanj didn't think too much. He took out the Book of Misfortune and habitually cursed Li Qianlong and Xio. Now, whenever he had the time, he would curse the pair. Cultivate, read emails, curse, cultivate, read emails, curse. This was Hanj's daily routine. In the middle of a mountain range that was like an immortal realm, Xio sat in the bamboo forest. The surrounding heaven and earth spirit energy turned into mist and coiled around his body. Boom! Xio suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his ugly face turning pale. He slumped. Gritting his teeth, he cursed, what's going on? Why is there always an issue? For the past 10 years, for some reason, he had often encountered mental demons during his cultivation. They disturbed his cultivation and almost caused him to go berserk. At this rate, when would he recover? Xio was very depressed. Ever since he had gone to the Great Yan cultivation world, He had felt that nothing was going his way. It was very strange. He made up his mind to never go to the Great Yan cultivation world alone. As for Hanj, although he hated him, he didn't have the strong urge to take revenge immediately. He had hated too many people in his life. Hanj wasn't even ranked highly in his mind. So, he didn't even think that it was because of him. The more Xia thought about it, the more depressed he became. He could only take out a pill and recuperate first. In a magnificent palace sat dozens of cultivators. Li Qianlong and a black-robed cultivator sat at the head of the table. Everyone, this is Senior Yuan, a great cultivator at the Void Amalgamation Realm. He's willing to help us eliminate the Jade Pure sect. Li Qianlong introduced him to the cultivators present. Yuan was the black-robed cultivator beside him. The sect master of the Raincoat sect was at the 9th level of the Soul Formation Realm. In other words, the Taoist 9 cauldrons of the Jade Pure sect is very likely to be at the 9th level of the Soul Formation Realm. The Y family and I specially invited Senior Yuan to uphold justice for us. As for Taoist 9 cauldrons, we've received news that he has indeed gone overseas. His sect is also facing trouble and has no time to care about the Jade Pure sect. Li Qianlong's words caused the cultivators present to look at each other. These cultivators were the sect masters or vice-sect masters of the righteous and demonic sects. They had come to discuss the invasion of the Jade Pure sect. When they heard that Yuan was a Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator, they were not surprised. Instead, they were hesitant. If they took down the Jade Pure sect, would the Y family become the next Jade Pure sect? They couldn't defeat a Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator. Li Qianlong took in everyone's expressions and continued. Senior Yuan has his own sect. This time, our Y family has spent a lot of effort to invite him. After this matter is over, Senior Yuan will leave. After the Jade Pure sect is overthrown, the Y family only wants the Jade Pure sect's mystic realm and will not participate in the power struggles of the cultivation world. Upon hearing this, the expressions of the sect leaders eased. Li Qianlong was secretly pleased. Deity Slaying Elder, I want to see if you can stop a Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator. At this moment, the spirit energy in Li Qianlong's body suddenly surged as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The sect masters were stunned. They stood up and looked around warily. Chapter 64, Su Qi feels touched. Attack of the Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator. 3 years later, Hanj broke through to the 2nd level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. Xing Hongxuan was still comprehending her cultivation technique and did not disturb the grey-robed elder. After the breakthrough, Hanj habitually checked his emails. Your disciple Yang Tandong became a demon king. Your good friend Mo Futu was attacked by righteous cultivators. X109, your good friend Taoist 9 Cauldrons was attacked by an itinerant cultivator. Your disciple Su Qi has obtained a fortuitous encounter and has comprehended a mystical power. Your good friend Zafan was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. X287. Your good friend Mo Futu was attacked by righteous cultivators. X302. Your good friend Mo Futu was severely injured and managed to escape. Your good friend Zafan has fallen into the demonic path. Fook, another disciple had fallen to the demonic path. In fact, it was someone with connate Providence. Hanj was speechless. What's going on with this heavenly thunder peak? The peak master was a spy and the 2 core disciples had betrayed the sect. Mo Futu and Zifan's cultivation levels had both reached the 5th level of Golden Core Realm and above. They had advanced by leaps and bounds. He wondered what they had been through. Just as Hanj was wondering, he suddenly sensed the chaotic heavenly dog's aura. The fat dog squatted at the entrance of the cave abode and did not say a word. It looked like it wanted to say something but hesitated. Hanj asked, "What is it?" The chaotic heavenly dog immediately asked, "Master, can I go out and gain experience? I can't stay in seclusion anymore." Hanj frowned. The chaotic heavenly dog waited uneasily. You're a divine beast. Once your identity is exposed, it will easily attract the attention of others. At that time, it will be very difficult for me to save you, Hanj said seriously. The chaotic heavenly dog had a troublesome personality indeed. It was unlike the black hell chicken, which had already become as stable as Hanj through his teachings. However, as a chaotic heavenly dog, it was difficult to convince it of its yearning for the outside world. "Master, don't worry. I'll definitely be careful. I won't cause trouble or expose my identity. I'll be back after I take a walk." Hanj thought for a moment and said, "Then go." As a divine beast of Providence, it was difficult for the chaotic heavenly dog to die. He could let it go out and suffer a beating. Only then would he understand how good it was to keep a low profile and cultivate by his side. Pleasantly surprised, the chaotic heavenly dog immediately rushed down the mountain. Before long, the black hell chicken came. Hanju asked angrily, "What? You want to go out, too?" The black hell chicken trembled in fear. "How is that possible? I won't leave even if you beat me to death. I have to follow Master. It's too dangerous outside." That fat dog is finally gone. "Master, can you teach me how to cultivate now?" Hanju immediately stood up. Indeed, he should teach the black hell chicken some skills. The black hell chicken had an intrinsic cultivation technique, but it lacked spells and mystical powers. The current black hell chicken was the size of a pavilion. Seeing how big it was, Hanj had an idea. He decided to impart imitate heaven and earth to it. He first briefly introduced the power of imitate heaven and earth. The black hell chicken was pleasantly surprised and thought to itself, "Damn fat dog, you didn't expect this, did you? Once you leave, I'll secretly learn mystical powers from my master. When you return, I'll see if I can beat you up." Just like that, Hanj began to teach the black hell chicken the cultivation technique. In a bustling city, Suchi walked on a street with stalls on both sides as cultivators came and went. After leaving Hanj for so many years, he was no longer so childish. There was no smile on his face, and he gave off the feeling of someone who had experienced the vicissitudes of life. Suchi looked around as he walked. After the destruction of the Liu family, he had emptied their fortune before escaping. Now, he had spirit stones and spirit gathering pills in his storage ring. After so many difficulties, he still didn't forget the mission Hanj gave him. Perhaps the outcome of the mission doesn't matter. What matters is the process. Suchi thought silently. Thinking of all these years, he couldn't help but sigh. Whenever he was on the verge of despair, he would always turn the situation around. He guessed that Hanj was definitely protecting him secretly. That's right. That was definitely the case. Otherwise, how could he escape peril every time he fell into danger? Moreover, he remembered that Hanj had said that he wanted to personally go to the demon-taming sect and flatten it. This senior was nurturing him to become a qualified disciple. Every time he thought of this, Suchi's blood would boil. He was not alone. He would never be alone. In his heart, Hanj was already his master. With master secretly protecting me, I have to complete my mission. Bang! Just as Suchi was fantasizing, he accidentally bumped into someone. The other party immediately used his spirit energy to force him back. Suchi took a few steps back and looked up to see a woman. He immediately apologized. "Sorry." The woman had a pretty face but a fiery temper. She immediately pointed at him and scolded, "You don't have eyes? I'll dig them out." "Do you believe me? So fierce?" Suchi shook his head and laughed. Not angry, he prepared to walk around the woman. However, seeing that he did not care, the woman became even more furious. She drew her sword and slashed at him. The sound of a sword being unsheathed alerted the nearby beasts waiting to be sold. A few of them immediately pounced on her, causing her to swing her sword in a panic. She ended up in a sorry state. When Suchi saw this, he smiled silently. "I knew it. Master is quietly helping me again." Warmth flowed through Suchi's heart. Less than a year after the chaotic heavenly dog left, under the lead of Li Qianlong and Yu An, the 19 sects finally prepared to attack the Jade Pure sect. Every sect brought tens or hundreds of disciples. All of them were at the 8th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm and above. In total, there were several thousand people. They did not come from all directions but gathered together as one group. They were worried that they would encounter a soul formation cultivator, especially the mysterious deity-slaying elder, so they decided to follow behind Yu An. Once Yu An killed the deity-slaying elder, they would be able to charge in. Yu An walked in the air, his sleeves fluttering in the wind. He had the disposition of an immortal. Using his divine sense to scan the Jade Pure sect, he frowned slightly. "There's only one soul formation cultivator in the Jade Pure sect, and he's severely injured. He glanced at Li Qianlong unhappily. That gaze seemed to ask, "Are you toying with me?" Why Yuan came all the way here, but in the end, it was to deal with an injured soul formation cultivator. Fortunately, before he came, he specially prepared for battle. All kinds of immortal equipment and talismans were prepared. In the end, that was all. Li Qianlong was pleasantly surprised when he heard that. He's injured. That's a good thing. His goal was to overthrow the Jade Pure sect, so he didn't care about anything else. Why Yuan snorted unhappily. He was already here. He could only continue forward. At the same time, inside the connate cave abode, an notification appeared in front of Hanj. The Jade Pure sect has been attacked by 19 righteous and demonic sects. You have the following choices. 1. Immediately run away. Stay away from trouble. You can obtain a numinous treasure. 2. Kill the enemies and protect the Jade Pure sect. You can obtain a spell manual. Hanj didn't make a choice immediately. Instead, he cautiously used the simulation trial to detect the strongest person nearby. Why Yuan, first level of the Void Amalgamation Realm, 9 Dragons Sect's Deputy Sect Master from the West Abyss State. First level of the Void Amalgamation Realm, not bad. Hanj entered the simulation trial and fought with him. 3 seconds later, he opened his eyes and shook his head. He had the same thought as Wai Yuan. That was all. Chapter 65, Sect Master. Are we still attacking? News of the attack by the 19 sects quickly spread throughout the Jade Pure sect. However, Li Qingzai did not panic. He asked the elders of the 18 peaks and the outer sect elders to stabilize their morale. He activated the sect protection formation first, and all disciples were not allowed to go out to fight. The disciples did not panic either. They were all waiting for someone. Deity Slaying Elder. The elders had already revealed that Deity Slaying Elder wanted to face the 19 sects alone to reduce casualties. Li Qingzai did not plan to do so initially, but to their surprise, the 19 sects did not split up. This was the perfect opportunity for Deity Slaying Elder to capture them all. Hanj had already moved. The moment he walked out of the connate cave abode, the Black Hell Chicken appeared. Master, there are many auras in the distance. Are there enemies invading? Are we going to escape? The Black Hell Chicken asked anxiously. Hanj walked around it and said, "They're just a bunch of chickens and dogs. Why do we need to run?" With that, he turned into a gust of wind and left the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain. The Black Hell Chicken looked in the direction he had left in worship. Wait, what did he mean by chickens and dogs? The Black Hell Chicken felt offended. But on second thought, it was a phoenix, not a chicken. The one who was offended was that fat dog. The Black Hell Chicken was amused instead. The cultivators of the 19 sects were nervous and excited at the same time. The Jade Pure sect is up ahead. Is that Senior Wai Yuan really a Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator? Of course. The Jade Pure sect's Deity Slaying Elder is the #1 cultivator in the Great Yan. Without Void Amalgamation Realm cultivation, who would dare to come? This battle will definitely go down in history. The Jade Pure sect is doomed. Zifan and Mo Futu are so arrogant, but the Jade Pure sect still doesn't kick them out. They're the scum of the righteous path. The cultivators discussed and encouraged each other. Li Qianlong and Wai Yuan walked at the front. They did not move quickly. Wai Yuan was full of confidence and did not care about the Jade Pure sect at all. He thought, if I end the battle too quickly, how can I display the strength of a Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator? At this moment, Hanj appeared. He flew over on top of the Kylin sword. He could fly directly, but he felt that flying on a sword was cooler. With the help of the 6 paths spirit energy, his face was covered by mist, making it impossible to see his true appearance. Wai Yuan's gaze landed on Hanj, 9th level of the Foundation Establishment Realm. What the heck? Wait. His body. Wai Yuan widened his eyes. He had lived for more than 1,000 years and was very knowledgeable. He could see through Hanj's numinous treasures at a glance. He was covered in numinous treasures. Wai Yuan wasn't so rich. He only had one numinous treasure on him, and it was not a defensive one, but a piece of offensive equipment. Li Qianlong didn't have Wai Yuan's vision, but he instantly guessed that this person was the Deity Slaying Elder. He immediately raised his hand, gesturing for the 19 sects to stop. All the cultivators looked at Hanj. The The Jade Pure sect sent only one person to face them. Such arrogance. Could he be the legendary? Instantly, all the cultivators of the 19 sects shut up and did not dare to let their guard down. Hanj's gaze locked onto Yuan. How could he have a hard time fighting someone at the first level of the Void Amalgamation Realm when he was at the second level? Should he put up a performance? Would it be a problem if he showed too much strength? Forget it. Too troublesome. He should just kill the person directly. Hanj got an idea as he was getting closer and closer to Yuan. Yuan took out a wooden staff embedded with various crystals and prepared to fight. He sent a voice transmission to Li Qianlong and asked, "Is this person really not Taoist 9 cauldrons?" This number of numinous treasures was too terrifying. For a moment, Yuan wanted to admit defeat. Li Qianlong replied with a voice transmission, "No, it should be deity slaying elder. I've heard that he only has outstanding talent. It's said that he was born in the outer sect of the Jade Pure sect and is less than 300 years old. Less than 300 years old? Nonsense. Where did the great Yan cultivation world get so many treasures? This person was definitely not from the Jade Pure sect." Just as Yuan was hesitating, Hanj suddenly rushed over. He was extremely fast. Wind God technique. The strong wind blew over, and Yuan subconsciously raised his wooden staff. This young man, he doesn't have any morals. Why didn't he introduce himself before the battle? Yuan was furious. He waved his staff and Hanj waved his palm. In an instant, 6 lights burst out from Hanj's palm and spun at high speed, forming a circular seal. 6 paths ultimate seal. Boom. A strong light burst forth, causing the world to lose its color. All cultivators closed their eyes. Yuan felt an extremely terrifying force crushing down on him. His wooden staff couldn't block it at all. The force entered his body and melted his spirit energy. Oh no. Yuan was shocked. Before he could think further, his mind went blank. The 6 paths ultimate seal directly obliterated his essence soul. Instant kill. There was no doubt about it. Hanj could kill Taoist 9 cauldrons, who was at the 8th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm when he was at the 1st level. It was naturally easy for him to deal with Yuan. When the strong light dissipated, Li Qianlong opened his eyes and saw that Yuan's corpse was being carried by Hanj. His limbs hung down naturally. Yuan's eyes were widened. He had obviously died with a grievance. His pupils had lost their luster. Li Qianlong was almost frightened to death. He shouted in horror, "Senior Yuan!" Hanj recognized his aura. Wasn't this Li Qianlong? Perfect timing. Hanj raised his right index finger and used the unparalleled finger divine sword, and the sword aura pierced through Li Qianlong's chest. The overbearing 6 paths spirit energy entered Li Qianlong's body and destroyed his golden core. It then tore apart his nascent soul and severely injured his essence soul. Boom! Li Qianlong spat out blood, and the spirit energy in his body dissipated. Another instant kill. Li Qianlong froze in the air as blood flowed from his 7 apertures. He was in an extremely miserable state. He raised his head with difficulty and asked in disbelief, "You? How?" Everything happened too quickly. The battle had yet to begin, but Yuan died while he got crippled instantly. The thousands of cultivators from the 19 sects were all stunned. Hanj smiled disdainfully. "How?" "Because I cultivate an Immortal Emperor cultivation technique. I have top-notch cultivation potential. Not to forget, Unparalleled Providence. Isn't killing you as simple as killing a chicken or a dog?" Hanj raised his hand and pulled Li Qianlong in front of him. He looked at the 19 sects and left without saying anything. There were too many cultivators here. If he killed all of them, the Jade Pure sect would become the public enemy of the great Yan cultivation world. Not only that, but the entire cultivation world of the great Yan would be weakened. At that time, the other states and dynasties might take advantage of the situation. Yuan's death was enough to shock the entire 19 sects. Sweating profusely, a cultivator looked at his sect master and asked in a trembling voice, "Sect master, are we still attacking?" The sect master cursed, "Attack? What attack? Are you a spy? We're here to reinforce the Jade Pure sect. Young people like you lack foresight. The future of our sect is worrying." After Hanj crippled Li Qianlong, he threw him onto the main peak and let Li Qingzai lead the way. He then returned to the connate cave abode and placed Wei Yuan's corpse on the ground. With a flip of his right hand, a soul appeared in his palm. It was the sect master of the Raincoat sect, Huang Zunshan. Hanj didn't kill him. Instead, he kept his soul in the depths of his own soul. Hanju asked expressionlessly, "Do you want to revive?" Wei Yuan was the Nine Dragons sect's vice sect master. Killing him would definitely result in a deep enmity with the Nine Dragons sect, so Hanj wanted Huang Zunshan to occupy his body. To be precise, Wei Yuan wasn't completely dead. His essence soul had been destroyed, but his body's life force was still there. Of course, once his essence soul was destroyed, his body wouldn't last much longer. Chapter 66, Third Level of the Void Amalgamation Realm, Problematic Disciple. Revive. Huang Zunshan was stunned. Immediately, ecstasy filled his heart. Huang Zunshan has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. Hanj raised his eyebrows slightly when he saw this line. Favorability went up just like that. Hanj was still hesitating about how to brainwash Huang Zunshan. Great. This would save him a lot of trouble. Huang Zunshan took a deep breath and looked up at him. Fellow Taoist. No, senior, I've thought about many things in the past few decades. I'm indeed not suitable to be the master of a sect. If you're willing to revive me, I definitely won't return to the Raincoat sect. Return to the Raincoat sect? What was he thinking? The Raincoat sect was long gone. Hanj calmly said, "This body is the vice sect master of the Nine Dragons sect of the West Abyss state. He's a genuine void amalgamation realm great cultivator. I destroyed his essence soul and hope that you can replace him. I'm not afraid of the Nine Dragons sect, but I'm afraid of endless trouble. Like you, I hope to cultivate in peace." Avoid amalgamation realm cultivator. Huang Zunshan's eyelids twitched. He did not die in vain. Huang Zunshan was filled with fear. Hanj said, "I've left my mark in your soul. If you dare to disobey me in the future, I can crush you with a thought. If you listen to my instructions, don't worry, I'll let you live a decent life. You only need to help me stabilize the Nine Dragons sect and hide this matter." This was true. After decades of soul imprisonment, his soul had already gained control of Huang Zunshan. The 6 paths of reincarnation technique was so domineering. Hanj didn't need to cast any special spell. He only needed to suppress the enemy's soul deep within his soul. With time, he would be able to subtly control the enemy. Huang Zunshan hurriedly nodded and said, "I swear that I will never be your enemy from now on." Hanj nodded and severed his 6 paths spirit energy. Huang Zunshan entered Wei Yuan's body. Possession took time. Words appeared in front of Hanj. "You successfully protected the Jade Pure sect and obtained a spell manual. Congratulations on obtaining the Still Phase technique." Still Phase technique. By using this spell, you can force the opponent to reveal his true form. It is effective on all living beings. Not bad. Hanj didn't inherit it directly but waited for Huang Zunshan to succeed. On the other side, the cultivators of the 19 sects remained outside the Jade Pure sect. Their sect masters did not leave but followed Li Qingzai into the main peak. Hanj's performance was too terrifying. All the sect masters were scared out of their wits. They no longer dared to attack the Jade Pure sect, much less leave. If they didn't resolve the animosity with such a terrifying enemy, they wouldn't be able to eat or sleep in peace. Arriving at the main peak's main hall, Li Qingzai began to investigate the truth. This time, no one dared to attack him. They even had to be careful when speaking to him. In the cultivation world, the strong were respected. After some communication, the blame was pushed onto Li Qianlong. Li Qingzai threw the crippled Li Qianlong out and confronted him. A huge calamity in the Great Yan cultivation world was successfully resolved by Hanj's 2 attacks. 7 days later, Huang Zunshan succeeded in the possession. He felt as if he was in a dream. He had been bitterly pursuing the Void Amalgamation Realm but to no avail. He didn't expect to become a Void Amalgamation Realm cultivator like this. Was this a blessing in disguise? Huang Zunshan's favorability towards you has increased. Current favorability, 5 stars. Seeing this hint, Hanj smiled in satisfaction. He liked Huang Zonshan even more. Huang Zonshan took a deep breath and walked in front of him. He bowed respectfully. Hanj instructed, "Go directly to the West Abyss State. If you can't lie, keep quiet. After all, you're a great cultivator at the Void Amalgamation Realm. They won't dare to interrogate you." Huang Zonshan nodded. "Don't worry, I will definitely stabilize the Nine Dragons sect." He turned around and left. At the entrance, he suddenly turned around and asked, "Do you need me to become the sect master?" He was very experienced in fighting for the position of sect master. Hanj's expression turned strange, and he said, "That's up to you. I won't restrict you, as long as you don't disturb me and the Jade Pure sect. You can develop as you wish." Huang Zonshan asked, "How should I address you?" "What's your Dao title?" Deity Slaying Elder was only a position, not Hanj's Dao title. Hanj thought for a moment and then said, "Reincarnation." Reincarnation. This Dao title was very meaningful. Huang Zonshan smiled and bowed again. After he left, Hanj began to inherit the still phase technique. A month later, there was a commotion in the cultivation world of Great Yan. The Jade Pure sect wanted Zafan and Mo Futu to be arrested, while the righteous and demonic paths joined forces to expel the Y family. The itinerant cultivators were confused. What exactly happened? Apart from having a wide network, the Y family was not very powerful. They quickly fled with the rest of the family, far away from the cultivation world of the Great Yan. Peace came to the cultivation world of Great Yan. Li Qingcai had already declared to the various sects that the Jade Pure sect had no intention of dominating the world and only wanted to cultivate peacefully. At the same time, he hoped that the Great Yan cultivation world would be united and not give other cultivation sects a chance. Hanj had already displayed his domineering strength. The various sects were naturally more than willing to accept Li Qingcai's suggestion. If you can't win, then don't fight. 10 years passed in a flash. Hanj broke through to the third level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. This realm was indeed not simple. He had to spend so much time in the early stages. But compared to Hanj's lifespan, it was nothing. Xing Hongxuan had not returned for the past 10 years, but the grey-robed elder who had comprehended the cultivation technique with her had already left. With the heavenly puppet around, Hanj wasn't afraid that something would happen to her. Ever since the Jade Pure sect had issued the arrest warrant, Zafan and Mo Futu seemed to have vanished into thin air and no longer stirred up trouble. However, Hanj could still see their actions from the emails occasionally. He even suspected that they were together. After all, they had always been close. Hanj had already imagined a complete BL1 drama. The male protagonist was forced to become a demon. The second male protagonist couldn't bear it and sacrificed himself to follow him. They became demons together and accompanied each other forever. While cultivating, Hanj habitually opened his interpersonal relationships to check his emails. Your good friend Huang Zonshan was attacked by an itinerant cultivator. Your disciple Yang Tandong has made a name for himself among the demons. He has more than 100,000 subordinates. Your divine pet Chaotic Heavenly Dog was attacked by a demon king. X68. Your beloved Xuan King Jun has returned to the mortal realm. Your good friend Xing Hongxuan had an epiphany. She has comprehended a mystical power. Your good friend Guan Yugang is afraid of you and has developed a mental demon. Your disciple Su Chi spread bad luck and kills millions of lives. His negative karma is insurmountable. Hanj frowned. This disciple was a true jinx. He had only left for a few decades, but he had already caused the deaths of millions of lives. Hanj suddenly regretted it. Should he have kept Su Chi by his side? However, on second thought, if he stayed by his side, he might bring disaster to the Jade Pure sect. That wouldn't do. Compared to harming the people he knew, he would rather let strangers die. Besides, Su Chi's jinx status was not given to him by Hanj. If there was anyone to blame, it would be the Heavenly Court. They insisted on demoting him. As for his eldest disciple, was Yang Tandong not coming back? Did he plan to be a demon king forever? Hanj was helpless. Why were all his disciples like this? Detected bearer of connate Providence, checking its origin. A hint suddenly appeared in front of Hanj. Chapter 67, Ancient Spiritual Ginseng. 3 great cultivation choices. How many years had it been? He finally encountered another bearer of connate Providence. Interested, Hanj checked his background. Xuncheng, 7th level of Foundation Establishment Realm, reincarnation of the ancient spiritual ginseng. In his previous life, he was raised by the Buddhists. Due to his fate with the demoness, he fell into a love trap. The gods and Buddhas were furious and sent him into the mortal world to experience the tribulation of emotions for tens of thousands of years. Only by completely forgetting himself and severing his emotions can he escape the pain of reincarnation. This is his 39th life. Xuncheng was born into a cultivation family. Even though he was talented and had an ugly appearance, he was not liked by his loved ones. After being mocked by his loved ones, he was heartbroken and shaved his head to become a monk. When he heard that the Jade Pure sect's deity-slaying elder was the #1 cultivator in the world, he specially came to acknowledge him as his master. He wanted to cultivate with the deity-slaying elder and forget the mortal world. Special reminder: Xuncheng is the ancient spiritual ginseng that can increase the spirit chi within a certain range. This is also the reason why Xuncheng has an outstanding aptitude. Hanj was stunned. Reincarnation of the ancient spiritual ginseng? And he came especially to find him? Hanj had a strange expression. He noticed the last sentence. The ancient spiritual ginseng could increase the spirit chi of heaven and earth. Wow! A human-shaped spirit chi-producing machine? Hanj swept his divine sense over. Xuncheng had already arrived at the foot of the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain. This fellow was really ugly. His facial features were strange. He had a unibrow and several long, black moles on his face. His figure could only be said to be ordinary. He wore a Kasaya one and had a shiny bald head. Xuncheng walked to a stone tablet and said, "Cultivate diligently, become immortal." This must be the cave abode of the deity-slaying elder. Xuncheng's eyes burned as he knelt in front of the stone tablet. He put his palms together and shouted, "I'm Xuncheng. I wish to become the disciple of the deity-slaying elder." With that, he began to kowtow. Ever since the 19 sects had returned in failure, deity-slaying elder had been turned into a god in the world of the great Yan cultivators. His legends began to spread. Apart from being powerful, what was most famous was his heart of cultivation. Xuncheng had met Jade Pure sect disciples before. He had heard that the deity-slaying elder was indeed an ascetic. Apart from breaking through and stopping intruders, he had never left his cave abode. Xuncheng felt that this person would be able to help him out of his misery. He did not want to love again. He did not want to think about her anymore. Hanj heard but ignored him. Although Xuncheng could help increase the spirit chi of heaven and earth, it could also attract trouble. Hanj did not want to accept a disciple so easily. Xuncheng did not receive a reply and continued to kneel. Spring passed and autumn came. Xuncheng had become famous in the Jade Pure sect. He was an independent cultivator who had been kneeling in front of the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain day and night, wanting to become a disciple of the deity-slaying elder. This willpower was something that people loved talking about. From time to time, disciples would pass by here just to see him. Under the warning of the Jade Pure sect elders, the disciples did not dare to stay in the Cultivate diligently become immortal mountain. Something worthy of mentioning was that no one actually came to expel Xuncheng. Hanj guessed that the cultivation family Xuncheng came from was not simple. Li Qingcai might have also tacitly allowed him to come and acknowledge him as his master. Xuncheng did not shout again since the first time. He knelt in front of the stone tablet and occasionally kowtowed. He knelt for 5 years. A total of 5 years. Xuncheng did not even stand up. Hanj was moved by his will. This person's cultivation heart is not bad. He shouldn't cause trouble after coming, right? On this day, Mozu came to visit. It had been decades since Hanj last saw her. She had been cultivating in the Jade Pure sect's secret hall. Hanj waved his hand and moved her into the cave abode. After not seeing her for decades, Mozu was no longer as inexperienced as before. She was more like a fairy. She wore a black robe and looked at Hanj with a complicated gaze. Hanj looked at her makeup and asked with a smile, "Miss Mo, are you going to follow your brother and become a demon?" Mozu sighed and said, "That's right. I plan to leave the Jade Pure sect and follow my brother to seek revenge." "Revenge?" Hanj frowned and said, So many years have passed. Can't you let go of the grudge? He immediately sent out his divine sense. I thought that I had let it go, but ever since I started cultivating, the hatred in my heart has become my inner demon. If I can't get through it, the inner demon will always hold me back, making me unable to reach the nascent soul realm. I came here to bid you farewell. Mozu took a deep breath and said, in the entire Jade Pure sect, other than my family, you are the one I care about the most. You saved me before, and you are also the only man who has moved my heart. Hanj frowned even more. Crap. Was she going to confess? I'm telling you this not because I want you to do anything for me. I know you desire to pursue the Dao. If I can return in the future, I will cultivate together with you and pursue the great Dao. Mozu smiled. I'm afraid that if I don't say it now, I'll regret it. She quickly walked in front of Hanj and wanted to kiss him. Hanj didn't dodge. It was just a kiss on the cheek, like a dragonfly touching the water. Mozu pulled back with a flushed face. She asked softly, Hanj, if I can return safely, are you willing to marry me? Hanj said calmly, isn't it good to cultivate together? We can talk about this after we become immortals. Mozu smiled. Her smile was breathtakingly beautiful. He did not refuse. That was enough. Hanj grabbed her hand, stunning Mozu. She looked at him expectantly. However, Hanj quickly let go. He had only imprinted his 6 paths insignia on her soul. The difference in their cultivation levels was too great, so she couldn't sense it. That's all, Hanj said expressionlessly. Mozu nodded and left. The moment she turned around, she wanted to cry. She wondered if they would ever meet again. Why didn't he ask me to stay? Why didn't he follow me? Mozu couldn't help but develop such thoughts. But she quickly composed herself. After all, this was the path she had chosen. After leaving the connate cave abode, Mozu was caught. Yeah, she was caught by Taoist Jinxu and Li Qingcai. You want to betray the sect? No way. When she expressed her intention, Hanj directly used his divine sense to inform Li Qingcai. How would Li Qingcai dare to let Mozu betray the sect? How much trouble had Mo Fuchu and Zifan caused the sect already? Hanj. Mozu's voice was filled with bitterness. Then, she was taken away by Li Qingcai and his companion. Hanj especially reminded Li Qingcai not to mistreat her and arranged a place for her to be imprisoned for cultivation. Li Qingcai nodded understandingly. In the woods, a fat black chicken lamented, "You want to eat my master? Dream on, woman." Hanj didn't think too much and focused on Xuncheng at the foot of the mountain. This person had knelt for 5 years. There was no harm in taking him as a disciple. He shouldn't be running around. As long as he stayed on the mountain to cultivate with him, there would be no problem. Hanj waved his hand and moved Xuncheng into the cave abode. Xuncheng was slightly dazed, but he remained kneeling on the ground, swaying. Even though he was a Foundation Establishment Realm cultivator, kneeling for 5 years was still somewhat unbearable. "Why aren't you calling me master?" Hanj said coldly. Xuncheng subconsciously looked up at him. Damn. He was really ugly. Up close, the visual impact was tremendous. Xuncheng suddenly jolted awake. Deity. Slaying Elder. He hurriedly kowtowed to Hanj. Disciple Xuncheng greets Master. Disciple Xuncheng greets Master. Disciple Xuncheng greets Master. Xuncheng wept with joy. 5 years. He had knelt for 5 years. 4 lines of words suddenly appeared in front of Hanj. You have accumulated 3 connate Providence bearers as disciples. Your Providence has increased. Your cultivation development has changed. You have the following choices. 1. The path of the sword immortal. Enter the Tao with the sword. After reaching the Mahayana realm, one can ascend to the immortal world and become a sword immortal above the heavens. Chapter 68, Continue to break through, paying special attention. Hanj saw the 3 choices in front of him and didn't hesitate. The third option included the first 2, it was clearly stronger. The third option had more places to go, too. Not only to the immortal world or underworld but anywhere. So, Hanj directly chose the third option. You chose the path of the sword immortal of reincarnation and obtained the mystical power inheritance. When your 6 paths cultivation potential and sword Dao are cultivated to the peak, you will enter the next stage. Congratulations on obtaining mystical power, Firmament Sword Chi. Firmament Sword Chi, Sword Dao Mystique cultivates a firmament sword chi in the golden core. By spitting out sword chi, it is extremely lethal. Spitting out sword chi? Not bad. It was a little showy. Hanj smiled in satisfaction. He looked at Xunchengan again and said, "Once you become my disciple, you can't leave this mountain unless you become immortal. Are you willing?" Xunchengan was pleasantly surprised. As expected of the #1 cultivator of Great Yan, Xunchengan has a favorable impression of you. Current favorability, 3 stars. Only 3 stars? Hanj was unhappy. Looks like this fellow doesn't like men. Xunchengan replied, "I wanted to cultivate in seclusion and leave the mortal world, so I came to find you." Hanj nodded and said, "Find a place to cultivate first. When you break through to the Golden Core Realm, I will teach you a spell." Xunchengan hurriedly stood up when he heard this. However, he almost fell down right after. Hanj clearly heard the sound of joints cracking. He shook his head and laughed. He ignored Xunchengan and started to inherit the firmament sword chi. 12 years passed. Hanj successfully broke through to the 4th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. Ever since Xunchengan joined, the spirit chi in the cave abode had indeed increased. Xunchengan had also broken through to the Golden Core Realm. Hanj asked him to go and receive the Jade Pure Technique. After Taoist's 9 cauldrons returned, he strengthened the Jade Pure Technique and could now cultivate it to the Void Amalgamation Realm. Through interpersonal relationships, Hanj noticed that the cultivation of the elders of the sect finally started to improve. Apart from cultivation techniques, the spirit chi of the sect had greatly improved after decades of refinement by the natural treasures. The spirit chi was like mist and could be seen with the naked eye. It covered the peaks like the legendary land of immortals, beautiful and mysterious. Regardless of whether it was the inner or outer sect, the cultivation levels of the disciples had all increased. It could be said that the entire sect was enjoying the benefits. The Jade Pure sect was quickly becoming the #1 sect of Great Yan. Guan Yugang's injuries finally healed. However, he seemed to have become a different person. He was no longer arrogant and domineering. He also often cultivated in seclusion. It was worth mentioning that over the years, Guan Yugang's favorability towards Hanj had increased to 2.5 stars. Hanj didn't understand what he was thinking, but it was fine as long as Guan Yugang didn't provoke him. On this day, Fairy Zixuan came to visit. Hanj immediately told Xunchengan to go out and let her in. Witnessing Fairy Zixuan's peerless appearance, Xunchengan was momentarily absent-minded. When he arrived outside the cave, he couldn't help but think of his sweetheart. His heart, which had been still for a long time, began to stir again. Xunchengan sighed. He walked under a tree and gazed into the distance. It had been a long time since he last saw Fairy Zixuan. When Hanj saw her again, he was still stunned. Fairy Zixuan was definitely the most beautiful woman he knew, especially her temperament. No wonder Li Qingcai, Li Qianlong, and Guan Yugang fought so hard for her. Fellow Taoist Han, long time no see. Fairy Zixuan smiled. Hanj shook his head and said, "Master, why are you so distant from me?" Fairy Zixuan sighed. "You're already a great cultivator at the Void Amalgamation Realm. You're 2 major realms higher than me. I didn't teach you anything and can't be considered your master. We were only related in name previously. If we continue to maintain this status, I won't be able to bear it and will lose my fortune." Hanj thought about it and didn't refute her anymore. "Fairy, why are you looking for me this time?" Hanj asked with a smile. Fairy Zixuan said, "The Jade Pure sect is preparing to send 7 nascent soul elders to the Holy Land of the West Abyss State to discuss the Tao. Are you going?" Hanj immediately shook his head and said, "I won't go. I don't need it." It was the truth. Fairy Zixuan smiled. "Then forget it." The two of them chatted a little more. Not long after, Fairy Zixuan left. The conversation between them was very calm. It was as if they were friends. Hanj wasn't embarrassed. Instead, he felt very comfortable. With Fairy Zixuan by his side, even if he didn't speak, his mood would still be very calm. West Abyss. I wonder how that guy is doing, Hanj muttered to himself. He clicked on his interpersonal link to check his emails. Too many people liked him. Most of them were from the Jade Pure sect. The emails dazzled him. Hanj suddenly noticed a filter for special attention next to the character profiles. He immediately set the people he wanted to pay special attention into that category. He clicked open the emails again and saw an option that only focused on these people. Hanj chose the option and the number of emails decreased greatly. Your good friend Huang Zunshan was attacked by a fellow sect cultivator, X75. Your disciple Suchi is being hunted down by 7 sects. Your good friend Taoist 9 Cauldrons comprehended nature and his lifespan increased by 300 years. Your divine pet Chaotic Heavenly Dog was attacked by fiendish cultivators, X641. Your divine pet Chaotic Heavenly Dog was attacked by righteous cultivators, X377. Your good friend Mofutu was attacked by righteous cultivators, X983. Your good friend Zafan is seriously injured. His life is hanging by a thread. Captured by the Snow Trampling sect. Your disciple Yang Tandong was attacked by beasts, X3782. Your disciple Yang Tandong has awakened the Demon Saint bloodline. His cultivation has increased exponentially. Hanj raised his eyebrows. Amazing. In just over a decade, these people had been attacked more than 1,000 times. Yang Tandong was the most exaggerated, reaching 3,000. Could it be that the numbers behind represented the number of people attacking him? Hanj felt that it should be so. How could he have been attacked 3,782 times in a little more than a decade? It was too exaggerated. Who could stand it? What was Yang Tandong doing? Why did he go out and not return at all? Did he not want to leave after becoming a demon king? Or had he completely transformed into a demon and wanted to become the supreme demon? Seeing that Yang Tandong had awakened his demon saint bloodline, Hanj was relieved. This kid wouldn't die now. There was no need to worry about him. As for Zafan, this protagonist had been captured. What an embarrassment. What kind of sect was the Snow Trampling sect? Why haven't I heard of it? Perhaps it's not from the great Yan cultivation world? Hanj thought as he continued reading the emails. The more he read, the more determined he became. It was best to cultivate peacefully in the Jade Pure sect. At dusk, the setting sun was like blood and the sky was bleak. In the mountains, countless cultivators flew on their swords and floated in the air. It was a spectacular sight. All the cultivators stared in one direction. A man stood on the hill. It was Suchi. His face was covered in blood. His hair was messy and his robes were tattered. He looked extremely pathetic. He gritted his teeth and looked at the enemies in the sky. A middle-aged man standing on the flying sword pointed at Suchi and shouted angrily, "Demon, where are you running? You must die today." The other cultivators cursed. Suchi was being hunted down because he had too many treasures on him. In the past few decades, he had killed countless cultivators and taken away all their treasures. Not long ago, he had accidentally displayed his wealth at the auction and was targeted by others. It wasn't easy for him to kill the intruder, but in the end, the other party's identity was too great. The elder of the deceased came to hunt him down. Just as Suchi was about to die, the master in Suchi's heart protected him and secretly killed the elder. Just like that, there was no end to the matter, as it involved more and more people. Suchi had more and more storage rings, but more trouble also accompanied. This time, 7 sects had gathered to kill him. Suchi was only at the Golden Core realm. How could he kill his way out? Seeing that the cultivators were about to cast spells to kill him, Suchi couldn't help but shout, "Master, save me." Chapter 69, 5th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm, Mighty Cultivator Guest Elder. "Master, save me." Hearing this, all the cultivators stopped and looked around nervously. Suchi had always been able to turn the situation around. The cultivators chasing him had all died, so they had always suspected that there was someone behind him. So it was his master. The middle-aged cultivator who had cursed Suchi earlier shouted, "Fellow Taoist, why are you hiding in the dark? Are you feeling guilty?" However, no one answered him. The middle-aged cultivator looked at Suchi again. He discovered that Suchi had a mocking, smug look on his face as if they were the ones who would die instead of him. Suchi's confidence made the middle-aged cultivator panic even more. Boom! Thunderclouds gathered and the sky quickly darkened. Everyone looked around nervously. Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, growing stronger and stronger. The cultivators were horrified to find that the wind was very strange. There were wind blades that couldn't be seen with the naked eye. They were extremely sharp and tore their clothes apart. They were so shocked that they hurriedly used their spirit energy to defend themselves. Apart from Suchi, everyone else suffered. Suchi had a look of admiration. As expected of Senior. Wait. No. Master. Master was so powerful. Thunder rumbled and wind raged. It was as if the end of the world had arrived. Only when the first bolt struck did the 7 sects realize that a nightmare had come. It was no ordinary thunder. It was heavenly thunder. A year was a long time for mortals. 18 years was enough for a person to grow up. To Hanj, it passed very quickly, like a dream. His cultivation level had broken through to the 5th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm. The speed of his breakthrough was already very fast. One had to know that Taoist 9 Cauldrons was still stuck at the 8th level of the Void Amalgamation Realm and Xio was still at the 2nd level. While cultivating, Hanj imparted the Heartless Flying Sword to Xuncheng'an. After cultivating the Heartless Flying Sword for 10 years, Xuncheng'an was pleasantly surprised to find that he did not seem to be thinking about the past. Little did he know that his sexual desire was decreasing. After breaking through, Hanj habitually took out the Book of Misfortune and cursed Xio. The emails could only focus on the situation of people he had a good relationship with. Hanj couldn't see the situation of the enemy, but Xio's image was still there, which meant that he was still alive. Before Xio died, Hanj wouldn't give up on cursing him. Who asked this fellow to have such a high level of hatred for him? After so many years, it did not decrease at all. Hanj cursed him as he checked the emails in his interpersonal relationships. Most people were attacked in the last 18 years. Rather than attacking, it was more like fighting. It was impossible for everyone to be attacked. Most of the time, they would be the first to attack. The world was dangerous. He had to stay away. Perhaps with Hanj's current cultivation, he was not afraid of being attacked. However, if this happened too many times, it would affect his cultivation. Just like Yang Tandong and Zufan, they were always in the top 3. The chaotic heavenly dog was catching up to them as well. Every time he saw the chaotic heavenly dog being beaten, Hanj found it funny. Serves you right for not listening to me. Although the chaotic heavenly dog was constantly being beaten, its cultivation level kept increasing. It was the same for the others. It looked like they were all fighting for fortuitous encounters. Several days later, Xing Hong Xuan came to visit. Hanj chased Xuncheng'an out and let her in. Husband, I've obtained a great fortuitous encounter in the past few decades and gained enlightenment of a divine technique. Do you want to learn it? I can teach it to you. Xing Hong Xuan ran to him excitedly and said as if she was presenting a treasure. Hanj shook his head and said, I have my own divine technique. I don't need it. Xing Hong Xuan had indeed obtained a huge opportunity. Her cultivation level had soared to the 8th level of the Golden Core Realm. She was almost catching up to Zufan, a bearer of connate Providence. Xing Hong Xuan flipped her right hand, and 2 green fruits the size of a fist appeared in her hand. She smiled and said, These are strange fruits that I found in the ancient mystic realm. After consuming them, they can increase one's blood vitality and strengthen one's physique. They're very magical. I only ate one of them, and I can crush a small mountain with one palm. Hanj took a look and realized that this green fruit was extraordinary. He took one and started eating. The fruit entered his throat and instantly melted, turning into a hot stream that flowed into Hanj's body. Then, Hanj felt warm all over. The effect was obvious. Hanj immediately ate the entire fruit. Xing Hong Xuan handed the remaining one to him. How can I accept this? Hanj said helplessly but still obediently ate the green fruit. Xing Hong Xuan smiled. It's fine. As long as I can help you, I'll be happy. After eating the 2 green fruits, Hanj took out some equipment and gave them to her. They were all loot seized from enemies. Xing Hong Xuan wanted to reject him, but Hanj insisted, so she could only accept it. Xing Hong Xuan felt extremely happy. Take out your heavenly puppet. I'll improve it. Hanj said. Xing Hongxuan's face reddened slightly upon hearing this. She reluctantly took out the heavenly puppet. Hanj's expression turned strange. The heavenly puppet's face was actually carved out. It was Hanj's face. Although there was a difference in their looks, their facial features were similar. The strange thing was that the mouth of the heavenly puppet was a little red as if it had been rouged. Could it be? Hanj didn't dare to think about it. Pretending not to notice, he took the puppet and poured his 6 paths spirit energy into it. The heavenly puppet did not have a cultivation realm. He only needed to replace the 6 paths spirit energy inside to increase its battle prowess to the void amalgamation realm. Of course, the heavenly puppet could only be raised by Hanj. The spirit energy of others had no effect on it. The heavenly puppet was equivalent to Hanj's spiritual incarnation. Replenishing the heavenly puppet with spirit energy was not troublesome and it wouldn't take long. Xing Hongxuan sat at the side and asked softly, "Has Moza looked for you recently?" Chang Wei had left, but she had another love rival. After not being here for so many years, she didn't know if Moza had made a move on Hanj. "Yes," Hanj replied and recounted what happened. Xing Hongxuan sighed. "What a pity." "What's a pity?" "Nothing," Xing Hongxuan replied as she waved her hand. The two of them started to chat. Xing Hongxuan talked about her experiences over the years. Hanj learned about the cultivation world through her. 10 days later, Xing Hongxuan walked to the entrance. After confirming that her clothes were clean, she left with a flushed face. Hanj sat on the bed and pulled at his wrinkled clothes. He sighed. However, he still smiled. 5 years later, Li Qingcai came to visit. Hanj threw Xuncheng out again and let him in. Seeing Li Qingcai's worried expression, Hanj's heart skipped a beat. Did something happen again? It had only been a few decades. Li Qingcai found a chair and sat down. He then looked at Hanj and sighed. "Elder Han, something bad has happened. The cultivation world of Great Y has been unified. The leader is the Bloodfire Heavenly Sect. They've found a powerful guest elder from somewhere and have said that they want to unify the cultivation world around them." Hanj was puzzled. They're all cultivators. Instead of going into seclusion to comprehend the Tao of heaven and earth and pursue eternal life, why are they fighting for territory like ordinary people? Li Qingcai shook his head. The ambitions of fiendish cultivators will only increase as their cultivation level increases. Furthermore, the more cultivation worlds they occupy, the more cultivation resources they can obtain. How powerful is that guest elder? I'm not sure. At the very least, he's at the void amalgamation realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to unite the cultivation world of Great Y so quickly. Could he be at the body integration realm? If so, Elder Han, what will you do? We'll see when the time comes. If it's tomorrow, I might run. Chapter 70, True Martial Sect, Eternal Sword Dao. Of course not tomorrow. It's a long journey. In addition to the resistance of the sects along the way, it will take at least several decades or even longer for them to reach the Jade Pure Sect. I'm just informing you in advance. Li Qingcai shook his head and smiled. He understood what Hanj meant. He couldn't help but sigh. Elder Han's talent was truly rare. After a few decades, his cultivation level would definitely increase greatly. Hanj smiled and said, "In that case, I don't have to run." They smiled at each other. Unknowingly, the person Li Qingcai relied on the most had become Hanj. Although the two of them didn't interact much, whenever the Jade Pure Sect encountered danger, the first person Li Qingcai thought of was Hanj. "By the way, where's my disciple? Didn't you look for him after he disappeared?" Hanj asked. Speaking of which, Yang Tandong went missing because he followed the sect to the cultivation meeting. Li Qingcai's expression turned strange, and he said, "I found him, but he doesn't want to come back. He's already a demon king and is very famous among the demons in the Great Yan cultivation world. He might become the Great Yan demon king in another 100 years." Hanj was speechless. Indeed. Li Qingcai smiled. "Recently, several nascent soul cultivators have joined the sect. I've also convinced 2 soul formation cultivators to join the Jade Pure Sect most of the year." People pursued greater ambitions. Right now, the Jade Pure Sect was definitely the strongest in the cultivation world of Great Yan. The spirit chi in their sect was also far superior to that of other sects. Hanj nodded. The stronger the Jade Pure Sect was, the better it was for him. To be honest, he was definitely the most leisurely elder in the Jade Pure sect. He had only made a few moves in the past 100 years and was never overly worked. The spiritual flowers and spiritual herbs that had been cultivated on the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain were specially guarded by disciples. Hanju only needed to do one thing: cultivate. After so many years, your deeds as deity-slaying elder are almost forgotten. Only the older generation like us still talk about your prestige. Now, it's the world of Zufan, Mo Fuchu, Yang Tandong, and other favored geniuses. The three of them can be said to be influential figures. Unfortunately, they're no longer working for the Jade Pure sect. By the way, dozens of years ago, a demonic dog ran rampant in the cultivation world. I heard from the disciple's description that the demonic dog seems to be the one raised by you. Li Qingzai suddenly recalled something and asked. Upon arriving at the Cultivate diligently become Immortal Mountain, he did not see the chaotic heavenly dog. Hanj replied, ignore it. It wants to go out and explore. When it's afraid, it will naturally come back. Li Qingzai shook his head and laughed. The two of them chatted for a while before Li Qingzai stopped disturbing him. Hanju absorbed qi while checking his interpersonal relationships. Your pet, the chaotic heavenly dog, was attacked by beasts. X578. Your good friend Zufan encountered a huge fortuitous encounter and obtained an ancient numinous treasure. Your good friend Fairy Zixuan was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. X33. Your good friend Guan Yugang was attacked by a fiendish cultivator. X421. Your disciple Su Qi has comprehended the heavenly Dao and obtained a mystical power. Your good friend Huang Jihao was attacked by a righteous cultivator. X798. Your good friend Huang Jihao was captured by the true martial sect. Hanju didn't see Yang Dandong's situation, but this kid's profile picture was still there. It looked like he was in seclusion. That was good. Hanj was really afraid that he would die. Hanj noticed that Su Qi had actually learned a new mystical power. Interesting, not only Su Qi, but other people also comprehended mystical powers during their cultivation. Ever since Hanj started cultivating, he had always relied on the system's rewards. He had placed all his energy on cultivating qi and had never comprehended a mystical power himself. Why not give it a try? Hanj had top-notch Sword Dao comprehension. It shouldn't be difficult for him to comprehend a Sword Dao mystical power. Cultivating all the time was boring. Having an epiphany was quite interesting. Creating a divine power out of thin air required imagination. I might as well improve my mystical power. Hanj thought for a moment and decided to gain an epiphany on the 10,000 Sword sect. This Sword Dao mystical power was definitely his most handsome skill. It was worth improving. Hanj immediately closed his eyes. The 10,000 Sword sect could summon at most 10,000 sword shadows in the long river of history. Although it created a huge scene, its accuracy and lethality were still poor. Hanj suddenly had an idea. If he combined the 3 pure shadow sword technique with the 10,000 sword sect, gasp, how terrifying. More than 10,000 sword shadows that could freely kill. He would comprehend it just like that. In high spirits, Hanj fully focused on his epiphany. The West Abyss state was a region without any dynasties. There were many demons here, and it was difficult for mortal dynasties to enter. However, there were many cultivation sects here, even more than in the Great Yan cultivation world. The true martial sect was one of the top orthodox sects in West Abyss state. In a pavilion, Huang Jihao sat on the bed and cultivated. The door suddenly opened and a blue-robed man walked in. He had a handsome appearance, with sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, as if he had walked out of a painting. The blue-robed man walked to the table and sat down. He placed his sword on the table and poured himself a cup of tea. He smiled and said, Huang Jihao, you still haven't thought it through? Huang Jihao opened his eyes and expressionlessly said, I lost to you not because my sword techniques are lacking. If you give me another 100 years, I will definitely be able to defeat you. The Vermilion Bird Sword sect has raised me up, so I cannot betray the sect. The blue-shirted man smiled and said, the true martial sect is stronger than the Vermilion Bird Sword sect. It's even stronger than the Jade Pure sect in the Great Yan cultivation world. If you join the true martial sect, I'll nurture you into the #1 sword cultivator in the world. You might even have a chance to become a sword immortal in the future. This is your opportunity, a chance that many sword cultivators dream of." Huang Zhihao fell silent. If you were born in the true martial sect, you would be at least at the 8th level of the soul formation realm. You have a natural sword heart, so you shouldn't waste your talent. When you become a sword immortal, it will be in honor for the Vermilion Bird Sword sect. The blue-shirted man said seriously, his eyes even revealing anticipation. Huang Zhihao smiled bitterly. "Is my talent in the sword truly unparalleled? But I have seen a genius in the sword that is even more monstrous than me. That person's sword chi is even stronger than yours." Huang Zhihao recalled the time when he faced Han's sword chi and couldn't help but tremble. The blue-shirted man laughed loudly. He smiled and asked, "Is this man from your great Yan?" Huang Zhihao nodded. The blue-shirted man said proudly, "Absolutely impossible. There can't be a sword cultivator stronger than me in the Great Yan cultivation world." Huang Zhihao asked seriously, "Have you heard of the Jade Pure Sect's deity-slaying elder? His strength is already comparable to a void amalgamation realm cultivator." The 9 Dragons sect's Yuan returned in low spirits and did not mention a single word about the battle. It can be seen just how powerful the deity-slaying elder is. The blue-shirted man said disdainfully, "Yuan doesn't have the talent. He managed to reach the void amalgamation realm by chance. In order to reach a higher level, he was even hired by others and embarrassed as void amalgamation realm cultivators. Defeating him isn't difficult." At this moment, the sword on the table suddenly vibrated. Not only his sword, but the sword by Huang Zhihao's leg also vibrated. The two were shocked. Huang Zhihao grabbed his sword, unable to restrain it. He couldn't help but look at the blue-robed man and ask, "What happened?" The blue-shirted man held his sword and walked out of the room. Huang Zhihao followed closely behind. The two of them arrived at the courtyard. This courtyard was located on a mountain peak and could overlook most of the scenery of the true martial sect. Many disciples of the sect unsheathed their swords and flew uncontrollably to the high school. The swords in the hidden sword pavilion also broke through the door and soared into the sky. Tens of thousands of swords floated in the air. As far as the eye could see, the tips of the swords were pointed in the same direction. The scene was extremely shocking. All the swords began to vibrate. The sounds converged and filled the world. A shocked expression appeared on the blue-robed man's face, and he muttered, "Worship of 10,000 swords, resonance of sword spirits. Someone has comprehended the eternal Sword Dao. How can this be?"